The ongoing U.S. trade war saga against Canada, Donald Trump's trade representative has now told U.S. Congress that Washington is not prepared to just automatically extend the free trade agreement for another couple of years without addressing specific structural issues. Jameson Greer is the trade representative. He says one of those issues is the way Canada deals with online streaming. Another issue is the boycott of U.S. booze. He also talked about dairy. Jameson Greer saying the streaming law discriminates against U.S. tech firms, restricts digital services trade as well. The Canadian government says the Online Act ensures that Canadian stories, music widely available on streaming platforms to benefit future generations of creators and artists. The Act asks that broadcasters showcase Canadian stories and music, contribute to the production of Canadian stories as well. The Online Streaming Act did receive royal assent in April of 2023. But of course, the Americans are not happy about it, and it's just one of the trade irritants. And the U.S. is really squeezing Canada over that and other issues. Let's bring in CTV News political analyst Sharan Kaur, who's standing by in Toronto. Happy Friday. Good to see you.
Happy Friday.
All right, so let's talk about the pressure the Americans are putting on the Canadian government to make concessions before these review talks even begin, and the position you think that puts the Prime Minister into, Sharon.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different pain points, and this is going to be one for the U.S. where the Canadian government has to tread very carefully, because specifically when it comes to Canadian content, you've got platforms like Netflix and others who, for example, have large footprints in Canada from a filming perspective. And so they're going to have to balance what will this bill potentially do to, say, companies like Netflix, who, when they do film in Canada, it brings a whole lot of other economic activity to it. So I can appreciate and understand the Canadian content aspect of it, but we do come from a very different size and scale in the industry, so there's going to have to be a balance, and I think this is going to be one of the areas where the Canadian government should lean into a little bit of what the U.S. wants, because it is to, I would say, the benefit of the industry both ways. There's ways to implement it that does not impact local economic, I would say, activity that comes with it, but it's not going to be an easy one.
Are we getting bullied time and time again here, Sharon? What's going on?
Well, there's definitely a lot of bullying. This whole trade renegotiation, the tariff implementation, this is all about bullying. We're dealing with a president who is considering America first. He's not considering what is happening to other countries as a result. Now, we have to remember that this is probably the new world order. So we have to figure out how we're going to play ball in that. And with the CUSMA renegotiations that are going to be leaning in, we have to be very strategic on how we give and take, because we're not the same size, we're not the same scale, and we also can't be bullied. So I think the public sentiment is going to be to push back, but I think there's maybe a bit of a lack of understanding on what that necessarily is going to mean for all industries.
The Prime Minister said negotiations will restart in January. What does that timeline mean?
Well, I would say the official maybe negotiations are going to restart. There's definitely been conversations taking place. What I would say this is going to mean, it's going to be a bit more public. We're going to see more ministers heading down there to negotiate specific files with relation to CUSMA. And, you know, I think the Prime Minister is going to have to manage the premiers on this as well, because we've seen how President Donald Trump reacted to the Ontario ad that Doug Ford and his team put out there. So there's going to be a lot of juggling and managing relationships, because at any given moment in time, if someone does something or says something as part of these negotiations that upsets President Trump, it could put us in a negative position, and we have to be really careful, because there does come a cost when we do that.
Yeah, one last question, which has to do with the threat, I suppose, that the U.S. may just sort of tear up the whole document and try to restart from scratch.
So they've been threatening this for a while now, and the president has also said maybe we just need bilateral agreements and we don't need some sort of a North American agreement that includes Mexico. I think there are arguments and some validity to some bilateral trade that only Canada and the U.S. have. But again, it's going to be the job of the government to look at what is in the best interest for Canada and Canadians. And if that means more bilateral agreements, so be it. But this is going to be a really tricky negotiation session, because as we've seen, Donald Trump only cares about the U.S., and what he wants is companies to pick up and move to the States. And what we need to do is make sure we create incentives here to get folks to stay here, to grow here, to manufacture here, to trade within our provinces. And that's going to be a really hard one.
Sharan Kaur, CTV News political analyst in Toronto. Good to see you, Sharon. Thanks for this.
Have a good one.